Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back for another look at one of Bandai's 30 Minutes Missions Armored Core kits here. Today we're taking a look at the Melander. Because it's a little bit more of a simple design in today's video, I also want to take a look at one of the weapon sets. This is weapon set 5 we're going to be taking a look at here as well. After we're done checking out the kit, we'll check out the weapon set here as well. But just to get into this one, it's a little bit more kind of simple of a design for this one, and I really like that about this. Definitely makes it a great option for customizing by adding different weapons or option parts onto it. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out for today's video. Let's go ahead and get right into it. And like I said, I definitely like the little bit more kind of simplistic look to this, almost more sort of like a grunt, I suppose. Not ever having played the game, I just don't know. Maybe it is a grunt, maybe it's not. I don't know. Just to me, that's just kind of how it looks. As we're here just to kind of focus on the model kit itself, you will have to forgive my ignorance of the actual gameplay. But anyway, the Melander here looking very cool as we have this full render over here on this side, and then this close-up kind of action shot there with the guns blazing, all the light effects and weathering there on the design, the eye glowing, just looking super cool there on the front. Around on the ends of the box here, the same thing. You can see this is the 6th release in the lineup. And then on the bottom of the box here, some more images of the actual kit itself, a close-up of the head there, and then in a couple different poses showing off some of the different weaponry that we have included. This Ludlow rifle there, I suppose. Here you can see the kit from the back, and then the unpainted state, exactly how this is going to look straight out of the box there. A little bit more information about the Armored Core 4 series in general, and then a QR code to the website. And then on the top of the box, a breakdown of the parts. So as I said, it's got that Ludlow rifle, the boosters there on the back, and then 3mm joints around in different spots as well, of course, for adding different parts and variations, and then a breakdown of the different sections, the head, the core, the arms, the legs. And then, of course, you can customize this by adding more weapons from different weapon sets. In this case, it's showing it with weapon set 4, but in today's video, we're going to be looking at weapon set 5, only after we've taken a look at the kit itself. So let's check out our contents inside here. It's a lot of gray, not exactly the most colorful release by any means. You do have this extra paper in here, just kind of showing off the 30 Minutes Missions line more generally. Again, I think that they are including this basically because some people who are Armored Core fans might want to get this kit and then not realize that Bandai also has their whole entire line of 30 Minutes Missions, other stuff which is very similar to Armored Core that they might also be interested in checking out. So just kind of way to reach out to more fans that might be interested in the 30 Minutes Missions line. But as for our main instruction manual here, once again, a breakdown of the different sections and equipment there on the front. On the back side here, the painting guide, which has the color set, and then showing some weapon options here that you could use from different sets. So basically everything that we saw on the outside of the box here is a look at the parts list, and again, a breakdown of the different sections there. It's all very technical, just to kind of recreate the experience of playing the game, right? Building your mech. And so on the inside, all of our assembly instructions all going to be there in black and white, but very straightforward all the way to the end there with the weapon assembly and how to equip different various parts on there. So that's it for the instruction manual. We did have a couple of marking stickers included here, basically the Balam Industries logo there in 1 in large, 2 in medium, and 6 in small size that you can place around either on the kit or like on a display stand or something like that. I think could also be pretty cool. But all right, then let's get into it here with runner A, which is in a light gray color here. The runner marking here for this one, 30 Minutes Missions Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon 4 is the runner label for this. So just simply labeled the 4th in this series of runners, and no runner B then. So moving on to runner C, which we have runner C1 and C2, which is a copy of this section right here. And once again, the runner label is the same for this one, just being 30 Minutes Missions Armored Core 6 Fires Rubicon 4 for the runner label. And as you can see, this runner is in a dark gray color there. In a medium gray here, up next for runners E1 and E2, which is a copy of this section of the runner here. Once again, the same runner label here for this, just simply labeled 4 for some more parts of the joints and frames, sort of mostly. Runners F1 and F2 going to be breaking that trend a little bit here as we have multicolored runners with dark gray and light gray on the same runner. Runner F2 being a copy of this section of the runner here like so. And the runner label here changing it up to Fires of Rubicon 7 rather than 4 for this one. And the same thing here for runner G. Last but not least is going to be a few more parts there in dark gray. It looks like mostly for the weapons, maybe a couple other bits on there. That's it for everything here. Let's go ahead and check it out. All right, and so here's the kit all built up. It looks awesome, and for this being the second kit in this series that I've built, I mean, I'm just once again just really blown away by the amount of detail that they have on these. They're just so packed with detail, and it's just really, really nice. Little mechanical details just all over these kits. I mean, the construction is really nice as well, and as you'll see here once we get into it, going through the included accessories and articulation and other engineering points of the kit itself, which with this one you don't necessarily have a whole lot of accessories. As I said, this is kind of like one of the more simple releases in the line in terms of just like kind of what it is and what you get included with this one, but really these kits are just so impressive and really quick builds too. I mean, if you're looking for just something fun and simple to build, it kind of looks more complicated than it is. It was actually a really quick build to put this guy together. So anyway, let's go ahead and check out our included accessories here. And we really don't have much for the accessories included, but as you remember, we got those stickers. I threw one on here on the leg. The problem with these stickers is that even with the smallest size one, there's not a whole lot of empty real estate here where you could put that, like here on the front of the waist section, onto the side of the thigh or the side of the leg there, kind of where I put it. But like even if you wanted to try to squeeze that in up on the front of the shoulder, wouldn't really fit. And so these stickers not really going to be super useful for the kit, but if you wanted to like make like a little display stand or something, maybe put this on like a little plaque or something, could be kind of cool. Our main and only weapon really is just going to be this rifle here, and you got a couple of option parts for that. Basically this little bit sticking off to the side and that little kind of like square section there, depending on whether you're using this on the left or the right side, that is going to be like an asymmetrical bit. Those two pieces there on the side you can see are different on this side. So we've got separate option parts if you're planning on using this weapon in the left hand, but if you're using it in the right hand, I think this is right. This is supposed to be on that side there like that. But just like the rest of the kit, a lot of amazing detail here on the weapon, but unlike a lot of the other weapons in the series, this one's like relatively small with our unit here. So again, kind of adds to that sort of grunty feel of it. Other than that, we've just got these attachment parts here, which you can use using these hard points on the back side. There's one for the left side and one for the right side of the back, just to give you like this kind of attachment part here for attaching other different weapons or option parts or something here onto the back if you want to use those, but those are just only used for attaching other stuff, nothing else that's included with the kit. So that's pretty much it. But as far as the main kit itself, like I said, the details on it are really, really nice. For the articulation, you're going to have kind of some basic articulation here, like a ball joint for the head. In the waist section here, just like a ball joint between the top and bottom half of the kit that allows you some movement there side to side, as well as some rotation. Around here on the back side, these little thruster bells are connected via ball joints, so you can adjust the angle of those. They also tend to want to pop out pretty easily. The shoulder joint here will swing forward and back there a little bit, and we can bring the arm up and out to about there. Any more than that and it's just gonna kind of be popping off that ball joint there, unfortunately. But we have some rotation at the bicep and then a single joint in the elbow, which is going to give us about 90 degrees. The hand is just connected via a peg, so it's not a ball joint, just a peg, which will just give us some rotation there at the hand. That's it. Down here at the hips, we have a ball joint in the inside and then a peg on the outside, so you will have some like movement there for the ball joint, and then just the legs just kind of rotate the whole thing. There's no rotation here at the thigh, obviously. Just if you try to rotate that out, it's just gonna pop off. So you are going to be a bit limited in terms of like the rotation of the legs to do like a more narrow or a wider stance like that. Ultimately though, I mean, you can bring the leg all the way up to the front, out to the side to about there. Seems to be about, that's going to be about the extent of how wide you can get the legs there for this one. And then the knee joint is going to give you, like at the elbow, just about 90 degrees, and that's kind of about it. Here at the ankles, the feet will go forward and back, and then you can rock them side to side a little bit. Up underneath the feet though, you got full detail there. And then here on the back, again, you just got a kind of detail everywhere. That said, you do have a couple of seam lines here and there, like here on the back side of the leg, seam line there. On the top of the shoulder, you've got a seam line running down the center of the top of the shoulder there. On the front of the forearm, a little bit of a seam line there on that light gray part. There on the top of the thigh, just like on the top of the shoulder, you've got a seam line there. So a couple of kind of tricky seam lines. If you're planning on trying to get rid of those, it's going to be kind of hard because you have all these little details all right around there. All these little raised details on the front of the shoulder would make it kind of hard. Probably what you would have to do would just be to just cut, sand those off, you know, get rid of their seam line, and then just add those details back on or something like that. So a little bit of a nuisance there. And aside from those hard points on the side of like the back of the torso, you do have a hard point here on the side of the arm. And that's really kind of about it as far as any like 3mm attachment points for anything. So it's very different from most 30 minutes missions kits in the fact that although it's customizable with the different Armored Core sets, not going to be as easy to customize just straight out of the box with your 30 minutes missions option part sets, because those all utilize the 3mm joints and we just don't have too many of them on here, just the ones on the back and the one there on the forearm. There is a hard point underneath the hip section there for plugging it onto an action base if you want to do like a jumping or flying pose or something. So let's go ahead and try out some poses here with this guy. The articulation is certainly a bit limited in different areas, but just due to like the style of this, especially being like very utilitarian looking, like a big walking tank essentially with the color scheme and the design of it, you know, I don't think that anybody is going to be expecting it to be doing some like super dynamic poses, like kung fu poses or anything like that. So although you're limited in the articulation, I don't feel like it holds you back too much in terms of like the logical kind of posing options for this. That said, if you did want to have something a bit more dynamic in terms of the posing, you might have to modify some of the joints. I just think that they're probably a little bit stuck with the design of these in terms of like how complex they can really make the joints for these, because you know they could make them more complex to have like double joints in the elbows and give these more range of motion, but that would add a lot with just with like the complexity of these as they are. They're not the most complex models. They look like they are. They're very visually complex with all the details and everything, but to add more like actual complexity, little parts and things like that, it would be kind of hard in this scale, in this line. They would have to be something more like a master grade. Then at that point, even to add that much more complexity into like a high grade, I think might be kind of challenging for these to do so in a way that's not changing the overall look too drastically, because they want to keep the look, you know, looking as authentic as possible to kind of how they look in the game or whatever. And if they changed the joints up a lot to add more functionality to this as a model kit, it might actually, you know, change the look a little bit too much for some fans. I know personally, I don't really think that I would mind, but you know, some people might, or that might be just kind of a part of the contract for these. I don't know, but considering that they're a part of the 30 minutes missions line, you have to accept that although they're very detailed on the outside, they're not necessarily the most complex model kits, so you can't really expect them to do that much, but I don't think that most people do. I think, like I said, most people just consider these kind of as they are, as just like these big walking tanks, and as you can see, you're able to do plenty of cool poses with them. But alright, so now then, as for weapons set 5 here, we've got an assault rifle, a pulse blade, a vertical missile, and a pulse shield set here that can be placed around on an AC, as you can see there in the photo, handheld, connected onto the arm, and then connected onto the back for that equipment there. So it looks pretty cool. It's in a pretty thin box, as it's obviously just going to be a couple of runners here, all in the same color, I would imagine. And you can see over here with this being called Weapon Set 5, obviously it's the 5th in the option parts series of releases. Now the cool thing about that pulse shield that's not shown on the front for whatever reason is that it has this big energy shield, being a pulse shield, and then the pulse saber have these really cool energy parts there that are also going to be included. The missile pod for the back looks really cool, and that can be mounted onto either the left side or the right side, so it's all, you know, compatible wherever you want to place this on your Armored Core. And there you can see some of those parts in effect, and then some more over here on the Milk Tooth, which is actually going to be the kit that we're going to be taking a look at in the next review, so stay tuned for that. Around here on the other side, the weapon bay, giving us some more information there, and a QR code. You can check out some more about Armored Core 6. Let's go ahead and check out what we've got inside here. There's that energy shield part there, looking really cool. I was very anxious to see what exactly that was going to be like. It actually does look pretty promising. We'll check that out here in just a moment. Once again, with this one, we have that same leaflet letting us know more information about the 30 minutes missions line, and then our instruction manual here, giving us our main system mission briefing, going over the different sections there once again. And on the back side, again, just a couple of demonstrations of how this can be used on a couple of different Armored Cores there, on the Orbiter and on the Milk Tooth for a couple of examples, but obviously they work with just about everything. Our parts list here is just going to be a couple of runners there in gray, and then the effect parts essentially. So obviously there's not going to be a whole lot here in the instructions, as it's just a handful of parts, but it is going to be a fair amount of stuff here, just basically going over how to use all of these different effect parts and everything like that. So, all right, let's check out this clear effect part. It's pretty interesting there. It definitely looks better on the front. You can see that this effect is printed on the front side, so when viewed from the back side, it's not like as prominent, but still quite nice. And I like that this is firm. I was kind of worried that it would be like kind of too papery, but it does have a nice firmness to it without being too thick. It still is rather thin. And then our other effect part part here being in a similar but slightly different color, a little bit more kind of light teal clear color there for this. And I'm wondering how UV reactive this is, so let's go ahead and test it. And unfortunately, it looks like it's not very UV reactive at all, which really is a shame, as this would have been really cool had it been much more UV reactive, and the same thing goes for the shield, so that's a little bit disappointing, to be honest. As for our other runners here in gray, runner OA1, with some parts there, weapons parts. Again, the detail on these is just always incredible. And then runner OB, here is going to be the rest of our parts for the shield and saber there, it looks like mostly. So that's everything there in gray. Let me go ahead and get this put together and we'll check this out. And so starting off here real simple with the assault rifle here, that is, as with everything in the set, it's all just going to be in one color, but some nice details on there, of course. As you can see, you will have a little bit of a seam line on some parts. Other areas, there's just like a lot of detail, so the seam line just kind of blends in, to be honest, or it's molded in a way that there's not really meant to be any sort of visible seam line on there. But it's pretty decent size, nice rifle design. You don't really have any option parts included for like when not held in hand to be able to store it anywhere, like any sort of like attachment piece or anything like that for it, unfortunately, but it's just going to be held in the hand. Then for the vertical missile, again with this one, going to be fairly simple. These actual missile doors don't open up, unfortunately. Would have been cool if there was an option part to have those opened, but basically it's just kind of your main unit like that. This part does kind of come off there pretty easily, although I don't necessarily think that's like for any particular reason. I think that's just like part of the build. Then you just have this attachment piece here, which will attach onto the back side of any particular unit. For example, if we wanted to attach it here onto the back of our Melander, we will have to use that included attachment piece that was included with the Melander, not something that's included with this set, as that will attach onto there like that, and then we can attach this onto here like so. And that is an attachment part for connecting that onto the right side. If you wanted to connect it onto the left side, you have this alternate part there for that. So depending on which side you want that to be on, you've got two different options for that little connection piece there for that. As for the pulse blade, here it is when it's not active, just a couple of parts here that will connect onto the side of the arm. For when you want to display it in the active state, you actually have to swap this part. So this part's going to go away and be replaced with the active pulse blade part that is just going to attach back onto the side of there like that. And then of course can be attached onto the side of the arm like that. And the blade effect part is quite huge compared to the actual AC here. Just as you can see, it's going to be a rather large effect part, quite heavy too, but the kit is solid enough that I don't think it's going to cause any weight issues or anything like that. But all right, lastly then is just going to be the pulse shield. Now this one we won't need to use the connection part from the Melander. This will just connect with this peg right into the back of the backpack there. And this is of course what the shield is going to look like in its inactive state. Now in this case, if we want to switch between the inactive and active state, it's not a matter of swapping parts, it's just an entirely separate unit here. So you could keep both. You have an inactive one on one of your kits and have this active version on a different kit. And here, as you can see, basically you can kind of see how the parts would move. This part would kind of like rotate it up, and this section of the inactive state, you can see there how it's like all kind of folded up, and here you can see what that looks like all kind of extended out to extend this part, which would be this part here, all unfolded and expanded, and then holds the effect part here like so, holds it out in front of the unit like that. And this is connected via a ball joint here at the end of the arm, so you can sort of adjust the angle of that slightly, not a ton, but you can adjust that ever so much. And then at the base where this part is connected onto the backpack, you can also adjust the angle of that left and right, so you could have this a little bit angled if you need to as well. So all pretty nice. Let's check these out here then on our Melander kit. Now obviously these are going to be perfectly compatible with any of the other kits in the series. Just for this particular video's purposes, we're just trying them out on this kit, which I think is actually a really good match. Now any of the weapon sets would be a good match for the Melander, with the Melander being one that doesn't necessarily come with a whole lot. As you saw there, basically just has its one little rifle, and that's kind of about it. Definitely picking up one of these weapon sets will help give you some more kind of stuff to enjoy with your kit. And this particular weapon set I think is really cool, just with the variety that you have. You have the rifle, you have a missile pod, you have like a beam saber, what we would call it in Gundam terms, but a pulse blade there, and then the pulse shield, which is also pretty cool, very unique weapon. And I think the effect part actually looks pretty nice. Now you could make it look a little bit nicer, I guess. I mean, I don't know, I guess you could like take your nippers and like go around the edge and just like cut it in little bits just to make the edges, instead of like a straight edge all the way around the outside, just to make it like more jagged. That might be worth trying out. It might look kind of cool, but I'm not gonna do that to mine at the moment. Just an idea for you guys, but let me know what y'all think of this weapon set. I think it's a really cool set. And also, in case anyone was wondering, just to restate this again, that all this stuff would be perfectly compatible with any of your like 144 scale Gunpla or 30 other just like 30 minutes missions stuff as well. Kind of the only problem is just like the details wouldn't really match all that well. I feel like these are very detailed compared to most any like Gunpla. They might actually work quite well with like the Netflix Zaku and Gundam kits, the Netflix HG kits from the Requiem for a Vengeance series, just because I think the detail might actually match pretty well with those. But other than that, other HG Gunpla kits usually are not going to be like in a level of detail that matches with these weapons very well. But just in terms of the size would work. So if you don't really care too much about the details not really matching, I mean, just in terms of, you know, size comparison, I think these would work really well with any of your HG stuff, or of course, again, any of your 30 minutes missions model kits. So definitely check out some of the weapon sets, check out some of the Armored Core 30 minutes missions line. If you guys have not yet, you can check out the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. Got a bunch of stuff in stock at the moment, so check out all of the different stuff there, as I think this subline of 30 minutes missions is pretty impressive for sure. It's definitely worth checking out. So check that out on the website. And as always, guys, thanks so much for all of your support. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. Really appreciate your guys' support. Thank you so much. Until next time, hope y'all are having a great day. I'll see y'all later. Bye, guys.